at the belt. Checks. Brummer's stealing home. He is safe, and the Cardinals win. Brummer stole home. The dugout comes out, and they congratulate him. You wouldn't.
Hello, everyone. What you just listened to was one of the most famous calls by a Cardinal legend, Mike Shannon, who passed away here in the last couple of days. He'll be missed by all throughout Cardinal Nation and baseball, period. So we wanted to show him respect and a tribute to him as we started off tonight's show. Everyone, you're listening to Huddle Up here on the Missouri Sports Network inside the Pizza Ranch studio. Guy, Mike Shannon was someone that you got a chance to meet. You hung around, having kind of grew up in the St. Louis clubhouse there. Guy, tell us a little bit about Shannon if you got any stories for us.
Well, I tell you what, he was fantastic. I grew up with Mike Shannon. I mean, he went to work for the Cardinals. He was a Cardinal for 64 years in some form or fashion. He went to work for the promotional part of the St. Louis Cardinals in 71, 72. He went into the booth with Jack Buck, and he didn't know what he was doing early on. I mean, he was not a broadcaster. He was not trained that way, but I grew up with him. I can remember opening up the window at the time I was 5, 6, 7 years old and turning on the Cardinal games, and just kind of grew up with Mike Shannon. And then, in the early 80s, when my dad was working for Whitey Herzog, I got to spend some time at Busch Stadium before they would open the gates. Would get in there. Joe Buck is a year older than me, and we would get to kind of run around. And probably my favorite Mike Shannon story. Mike Shannon at that time, when you're 11, 12 years old, he is huge. He's a big man, and he's the color of mahogany. I mean, he was so dark complected. And he used to go up, and there used to be up in the AP booth where the media was, there was a sandwich box, and it had like 400 sandwiches in there: ham, turkey, roast beef, and they were individually wrapped. And he'd go in, he'd get like 10 or 12 of those roast beef sandwiches and set them down right in front of his microphone. And Buck and I, one time, he was down doing a dugout show or something. We unwrapped like 4 or 5 of those sandwiches and took the meat off of them and wrapped them back up. And there was an elevator that went from the KMOX booth to the clubhouse, and we'd get on that and ride up and down. And we came back up, an hour after we had done that. The elevator doors open, and there's Mike Shannon standing there with empty pieces of bread in his hand. And he grabbed the two of us, took us into that KMOX booth, and opened up the window and said, "I will blankety blank throw you blankety blanks out this window if you ever screw with my sandwiches again." And I will never forget that. And I loved listening to him. Last time I saw him was 2013 when he came up for the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, and he introduced Tony La Russa when Tony La Russa went in, and he was also given a bronze bust outside the Hall of Fame. That was the last time I saw him. Got to talk to him just a little bit, actually, in the restroom at the Hall of Fame banquet, and just said, "Hey, do you remember?" And he, as soon as I told him the story, he remembered it. And but just a great guy, and will be sadly missed. In St. Louis, he was 83 years old. He had gotten COVID 3 years ago. They put him into a medically induced coma back in 2020. And he just was just never overcame that. Just dealt with the the results of having COVID and never got over it and passed away. Of course, all of his family was right there around him. And, not many people know this, but Mike Shannon may have been the greatest athlete ever to come out of St. Louis. Not only was he a quarterback there at CBC and went on to Mizzou as a quarterback, and he was only at Mizzou a few months because he decided that, MLB, Major League Baseball players were making more money than NFL players. So he decided to go into the Major League Baseball. But, Dan Devine, who was the head coach at Mizzou at that time, said, "Hey, had he stayed, he may have won 2 Heisman trophies." He was that good of an athlete. He's the only player in the history of the state of Missouri to win both the Football Player of the Year and the Baseball Player of the Year in the same season in the state of Missouri. So he will be sadly missed, and you love that voice, that "get up, baby, get up," and I really enjoyed listening to it.
Those are great stories, man. Yeah, he's definitely going to be missed. And with that being said, that's a great segue because I can always get up, baby, get up, get up, get up. There it is. He did it. He did it. The Cardinals went on a walk-off. Yeah. Get up, baby. Get up. Yeah. You'll never forget those days at KMOX and listen to the radio. And when the Cardinals were winning, wasn't anything better. We used to play a game down there every year. So at my high school in St. Louis County, Brentwood High School, we always played a game down there every year. So we would see him, and I tell you what, he had fun. Let's just say that. I see him after the game sometime, and he had a good time. He had a good time. So he'll be missed. He'll be missed. Da, not really sure if you are familiar with some of his famous calls, but what are your thoughts on the old broadcaster?
Oh yeah, growing up as a kid, we would get KMOX on AM along with WGN. And those were kind of the games that we would get. We would occasionally, if the weather wasn't too bad, we would get some calls out of Cincinnati as well on the AM dial. But yeah, I certainly remember he and Buck calling games together, and what a dynamic duo. And he will be sorely missed. It's kind of funny. I kind of compared him to Harry Carey because you could usually tell what inning the game was in by how bad he was slurring his speech before the FCC stepped in and said you couldn't drink on air. You know, Harry Carey, you could just count the beer cans on the television screen and tell what inning it was in. But with Mike Shannon, when he would start slurring a little bit, it's getting a little later in the game. You know, you wouldn't have to look at the score box to see what inning the game was in. But no, he will be missed, and not only a great player, but great icon of the game.
Both of those two, you just said two iconic names, and you say, "A one, a two, take me out to." Yeah. Those guys are. That's tradition. That's what makes baseball, a traditionalist sport. It makes people come back to the ballpark because it brings out your youth, and it's a pace in which you can enjoy the pace. You can enjoy the evening, the smell of popcorn. You can hear someone in the faraway section yelling, "Colbert here!" You can hear all those things, and you just feel right at home. But right now, I don't know how much I'm feeling at home when I look at the Cardinals and how they're just not playing good baseball right now. Gentlemen, right now, let's just talk really quick. Guy, the last road trip, what was their record on this last road trip? And tell me, what do you think went wrong? And then DA will let you come in and kind of chime in on the Royals.
Well, they went 2-9 on their West Coast trip. Seattle, San Francisco, and the Dodgers. They're just not hitting. Over that 11-game stretch, I think Arenado hit 118. He's down to 233. They're just not hitting. And then they send Walker down, Jordan Walker, who's second leading, batting average on the team. They send him down to AAA because he's not hitting the ball in the air enough. And he's hitting too many singles was the explanation. And it just is, it's ridiculous with what's going on. And you go back to the different lineups. I mean, they've had, in 32 games, I think they've had 30 different lineups. And you go back to the 1982 Cardinals, and I went back and looked, 162 games, they only had a different lineup in there 39 times. And it's just ridiculous what Marmol is doing. I think he's in over his head. I think he's a yes man, and that's why he's there and why Schilt's gone.
Yeah, I agree with you to a certain extent. I think he's definitely not showing the experience that you had with Schilt's head. And I wish we would have gave Schiltz another year to see what he could have did with that team last year. But I don't know. I think on the other side of the state, DA, the Royals they're running into their own share of problems.
Be thankful you're not a Royals fan, guys. That's all I can say. They are 7-23. If you look at their top three hitters, Bobby Witt Jr. has a 221 average. Pasquantino, who's a first baseman, he's hitting 275 and quietly having a really good year. And then their leading batter is Salvador Perez, who's an aging catcher, and that's not a good sign when your best batter in your offensive lineup is an aging catcher. But it gets even worse if you take a look at their pitching. Their top three of their four top rotation guys. You've got Jordan Lyles, who has a 6.11 ERA. Zach Greinke has a 6.10 ERA. And then Singer is sporting an 8.49 ERA.
You said
So
8, like 7, 8, or
7, 8.
8? Oh, wow.
8, yes. 8.49. So you go down and it's just their team ERA is 5.68, and when you combine that with a team that can't combine or that cannot produce offensively, it's just a recipe for disaster. Now, granted, there are a lot of injuries going on that team, and there are a lot of young players, but after the fire sale, after the World Series, they're still struggling to get things put back together.
Well, if we put our records together, will we have a good team? If we put our records together?
You're still not in the playoffs. As of today, you're outside looking in.
Oh, wow. Gentlemen, great segment, guy. Great story. Loved it. A little bit nervous, a little scared that you followed him into the bathroom, maybe. But hey,
I was there first.
Hey, whatever, brother. That's on you, my friend. I don't really want to know how y'all end up in the bathroom together. Guy said, "Hey, when y'all tell me, hey, when you see Shannon go to the bathroom, just let me know. All right, I gotta talk to him for a second." But so there it is. Guy Newcomb, great story. DA, thanks for the Royals update, guy. Hey, we'll get back into the Cardinals a little bit later if possible. If not, we'll do it next week. Hey, gentlemen, and everyone out there, you've been listening to Huddle Up here on the Missouri Sports Network inside the Pizza Ranch studio. We'll be back with segment 2, talking a little bit about the NFL draft and how it played out last week. Don't go anywhere. We will be right